Welcome back. All guns blazing for the bulls today, and it's almost 1% uptick for the bank nifty as well. This the sector that has been actually dragging the markets. So let's get it from one of the biggest bankers. PS Jayakumar, Managing Director and CEO of Bank of Baroda, has joined us. Good morning, Mr. Jayakumar. A very happy New Year to you and to everyone at Bank of Baroda from all of us here. The year has started with this big giant cut from the biggest banker, and everybody has had to follow suit. How much would you say it will impact your margins in the second half?
I think difficult to say, but I think there is a good case of immunizing ourselves from the changes in the interest rates, because the cost of deposits has come off, both in terms of the incremental CASA growth that has happened consequent to demonetisation, but also the change in the deposit rate itself as we look over the last 12 months. So I'm hoping we can work together to make sure that the margins are protected. That's my expectation.
Okay, since you broached
and see how it plays out.
Yes, sir. Since you broached this issue of the cheap money inflow that all of you have enjoyed, a few numbers on that. How much did you get by way of savings account and term deposits? As well, how much do you get in your loan account? For SBI, it seems to have been handsome. They've got 3 lakh crore of old notes, but, you know, almost 1.5 lakh crore appears to have come in the loan account. How about you?
Our overall savings account growth consequent to this demonetisation is around 38,000 crores. And then, of course, during the course of the month, there have been the usual ins and outs. So the balance sheet growth actually will be slightly different. We have had some modest payment into the accounts. Nothing remarkable that I can report about.
Okay, so 38,000 crores is what you said. Mr. Jayakumar, good morning. Happy New Year to you. Wanted to also understand a little bit about loan growth and credit offtake, especially in the corporate as well as in the retail segment. Have you seen any kind of pickup at all? And what would the expectation be going ahead?
Okay, let me first start with this cautionary note that our growth rates may have nothing to do with the total growth rate, because there is also an effort to get market share. Our sanctions have been quite robust during the course of the last quarter. Drawdowns have been a little slow because a lot of people were also expecting rate reductions, so the negotiation on the rate. On the balance, we've been able to hold on to our portfolio.
Okay, so what,
going into the next quarter with a lot of initiatives underway and the interest rate itself having stabilized or at least attractive at this point of time, we do hope to see some growth in quarter 4.
So what kind of growth would you be looking at? And also, if you just coming back to that point that Lata was trying to make in terms of margins, domestic margins have been at 2.8%, the net interest margins. Do you think that's a level that you can sustain in the second half of the year?
I would think so, but there are some numbers to watch for in coming to the 2.7%. A lot of it has also been impacted by the NPA, the reversals of NPA, the reversal of interest rate, etc. So we have to watch for those numbers as well. But all said and done, I think it would be reasonable to work towards retaining the margin.
Okay. Mr. Jayakumar, good morning. Is there a risk of the NPA problem raising its head again, especially in the SME? And the smaller sectors because of demonetisation, and that's something that we may find out maybe 1 or 2 quarters down the line?
I think we'll find out 1 or 2 quarters down the line. A lot of it is also going to depend upon how things recover. Now, if you go by the data that is there, that nearly 85–90% of the demonetized currency would be back through issuance of new currency by February, then I would think we can expect some kind of a pick up or reversal of all that has happened in the first quarter or the second quarter of the calendar year. So that really is what it is. As far as this quarter is concerned, we're still trying to get our numbers around how many of the customers really have not moved into NPA because the RBI forbearance that were there. And that catch up and how that plays out, we have to see in Jan to March.
Okay.
As far as the larger transactions are concerned, I think some of the resolutions look quite close to happening, but they got a little bit pushed back into the first quarter because of a lot of preoccupation issues, etc., etc. But I do hope that we'll see some movement over there in the first quarter of the calendar year 2017.
Okay, so let me go through the last GNPA, or rather NPA numbers that you all reported, about 43,000 crores. That is, of course, just the gross NPA. Even if I looked at net, 20,000 crores. Now, how will this pan out, Mr. Jayakumar? You are getting a friendly scenario of lower interest rates for these companies, and aging of loans because you have written up some of them. Therefore, will we see this number itself decline?
That's a plan. I'd rather talk about the 1 year view rather than 1 quarter.
Sure.
If I were to look at it, I think right now our uncovered position, if you will, is about 19,000 crores. The difference between, the gross provision and the net provision that we have. And that's the number we're trying to reduce in absolute term. And I would think, anything to 15,000 crores between 12 to 15,000 crores would be a target to get that number to.
Okay. Given
And
that...
that would automatically reduce the net. Sorry.
Sure, go ahead, please.
I said if the balance. No, I said with the balance sheet growth, the net NPA number should therefore come off.
Okay.
That's what all our data points shows as we look for 1 year.
Okay. Another number that impacts this is your recovery number. That was excellent when you last reported. Is that the pace you can keep, 1,500 crore a quarter?
Yes, that's a pace we can keep. I think we should be able to do that, and I'm hoping we can improve that also, because if some of the large ticket accounts gets resolution, then obviously the reversals will be higher.
Okay.
That may have nothing to do with P&L, because as things look like, because there is going to be S4A and all of that stuff, the amount we have provided is probably going to remain there as it is, because those will be represented by practically non-earning CRPS.
Okay.
But the accrual book will start moving up, and the net interest margin will therefore start climbing up.
Okay. So, going ahead, Mr. Jayakumar, are we looking at single-digit credit growth for the sector as a whole in the very near term, at least in FY17? Given that we have a very high level of impairment, the focus will now be more on balance sheet cleanup, etc., and there are capital constraints. Do you think that banks will have to go through a low single-digit of credit growth in FY17, and what is the expectation for FY18?
As far as we are concerned, the capital adequacy ratio is still quite comfortable. I would think a large part of the NPA problem has flowed itself. Something more could flow, but by and large, substantial part of it is done. There is a focus with respect to growth clearly at this point of time on our side. And for that, we have to do a number of things, from a system perspective, product perspective, which is what we are doing. So I would like to work with a clear growth mandate during the year. As far as the industry growth rate is concerned, I think we were down from 10.6 on a year-on-year basis December to 5.3 or 5.3, and this 10.6 itself was lower than what it was in the similar time in 2015, 2016. So if we can go back to the 11-12% growth, I think that should be a good number to look at. But there are a lot of good things happening as well, in terms of the inflation being stable, the expected rollout of GST, a positive budget, a global economy recovery, the remonetization. So if all of that kind of plays out, there should be an opportunity to grow. The growth in credit number should happen.
Where will the growth come from? Consumer?
Consumer, but also by and large by the expansion of the companies in the respective area. May not be really a large ticket dependence on that, but there is a secular growth in any case that happens.
Okay. Well, just a final word. I don't know if you all have spoken to the ministry on this. You remember that big announcement which the Prime Minister made on 31st, that housing subvention of 3% for a 12 lakh loan, 4% for a 9 lakh loan. Will the rules come out anytime soon? Have you been briefed about it? Should that be a pocket where you will see loan growth?
See, the method of providing for subvention, the administrative process has been there, coming from the NHB's 1% refund. So I think the administrative process could be rolled out very quickly. I don't think that is really the point. So I would think it should roll out quite early. I don't think it's too complicated to roll it out.
Actually, the current year-to-date apparently is, the NHB chairman spoke recently, October or November, and he said only 13,500 loans have been sanctioned in that category. So is this something which will fire up demand, or is this just a small addition to loans?
I think there are two elements to it. One is that this segment is also occupied substantially by the housing finance companies because the way of underwriting, etc., suits their methodology than a traditional bank methodology. That's one aspect of it. And the second thing, as far as low-cost housing is concerned, the supply side has always been a constraint in terms of availability of houses. So this would probably help more in the second tier and the third tier market, and where self-construction is there. But the supply side is also has to respond at this point of time, and the supply side is limited.
We'll leave it at that, Mr. Jayakumar. It's